What's your impression of the digital festival?
It's really fun. I mean, there's a lot of energy. We got a really interesting mix between entrepreneurs and corporate influencers and investors. So, the energy here is awesome. It's very much like what I'm used to seeing in Silicon Valley. So, when I travel around the world, different places, sometimes they've got the energy of it and sometimes they don't. This has definitely picked up on that sort of startup vibe.
What advice would you give to digital Switzerland?
I think it's always important to build an ecosystem that is collaborative and crosses a lot of lines. I think the reason Silicon Valley has done as well as it has is because everybody in the ecosystem, from lawyers and accountants, graphic artists, the entrepreneurs themselves, the schools, they all are focused around entrepreneurship and watching founders win. So, same idea is that here, making sure that, as it's already obvious has started to happen, you've got the whole ecosystem covered. You're bringing in people from different trades, you're bringing in people from different areas of support, or the law firms here, or the accounting firms here, or all the different support organizations that are valid to startup efforts. And then, obviously, I love to see outreach from here to our area. It's nice to see trade missions come over. I mean, I think some people, obviously, I've traveled from Silicon Valley to visit, but I think you get a lot of impact when you get sort of your top talent and you bring them on a little tour. And they get to learn and we get to hear.
What was your best business decision or career decision that you took?
It's probably just staying an entrepreneur. I was an entrepreneur all through high school and college, and when I graduated, I asked my dad to fund my next business because he'd funded my businesses in the past. And he said, I think this time maybe somebody else can fund you. But I don't want to not encourage you, it's just I thought it would be useful for you to learn on somebody else's money. Why don't you think about a job? And so I thought about that for a while, and I said, okay, well, could I have a car then? He said, sure, I'll spend up to $15,000 on a car. So I found a car for $18,000. I bought it with his cash, immediately financed it for $20,000, took that money, started a business. So it was that decision not to get a job, but to keep being an entrepreneur. Even though I had graduated, I no longer had nobody was paying my rent. It was sort of make it or die, but I've never looked back. I mean, I was an entrepreneur pretty much nonstop for 25 years. So without that, I wouldn't have the freedom to do a lot of the things I do now, and I'm really happy about having the freedom to do what I do now.
I mean, would you change anything? What piece of advice would you give your younger self looking back?
I think life's about solving for regret, meaning you don't regret the things you try and fail at as long as you give your all. You do regret the things you don't try. And I feel really fortunate that I have a very small number of things I regret, and they usually aren't tied to business. I'd remind myself that tenacity trumps all. The only true secret to entrepreneurship is tenacity. I'd probably tell myself at least two or three things. I'd say, one, there's a great Ralph Waldo Emerson quote that goes something like, when you believe what's true in your heart of hearts is true for all men, that is genius. And what I came to understand is, when you believe what's true for you in your heart of hearts today will become true to all men over time, that is genius. Like, be confident in your own visions, even when other people tell you you're crazy. It is fine to have a belief system nobody else understands, because eventually, if you're right, they will understand it and you will do tremendously well with it. So the combination of trusting your gut, believing in your vision, and that tenacity trumps everything would be the message that I give myself. I think they resonate throughout my life, but I'd want to make sure I really, really, really remembered ahead of time that those were what got me where they got me.